I'm pleased to be speaking with one of the keynote speakers, serial entrepreneur and self-described creative technologist, multidisciplinary explorer, Javier Ideami.
Pleasure being here, honestly.
Thank you. So, Javier, you have done things like co-directed the first AI symphonic orchestra. You're an award-winning film director and the co-founder of a generative AI platform. I'd like to know why you're here today at this conference about development and AI in development.
Yeah. Well, the main reason I think it's a great idea is that the organizers, I was also last year here, they want to bring also people from outside the field, which is so important. Precisely one of the things I mentioned in my talk is that one of the problems of the last 70 years in AI is that the different tribes that have been trying to move us towards AGI have been working separately, and even fighting with each other a little bit. Now, nowadays we have a lot of sectors already benefiting from AI, but it's so important to have this cross-pollination, experts from different sectors and fields speaking to each other. So this is the reason why I'm here, to bring the perspective from somebody that has nothing to do with development. Yeah.
That's fascinating. Right.
Yeah.
And much of your work does come from the creative and technological boundary zones.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
Film, design.
Yeah, cutting edge technology and AI combined with creative media, yeah.
So how do you translate that into often resource constrained the context in global development, where you're speaking about low resource settings and vulnerable populations?
The most important translation of my work in creative media and technology to the development field is what has to do actually with extrapolation and interpolation, because when you want to do something creative, you have to try to go beyond your training distribution, beyond your training data. You want to extrapolate beyond that, And what happens in development, is that not only there are all these constraints with the resources and the like, but they have to constantly adapt to changing environments and to changing situations of all kinds. So literally they need to be extrapolating. And we humans are very good at extrapolating, even from very few examples. Like, for example, a development expert may be very familiar with a certain country or whatever, and can very quickly adapt to a completely different scenario, but AI has trouble with this. So current AI systems are very good at interpolating between the data points, the abstracted data points of their training distribution, but have a lot of issues extrapolating. Good interpolating, problems extrapolating. So this is part of my talk today. To mention that when people are sort of like hyping that we're very close to AGI, we have to remember that things like robust causal abstractions, self-improvement in these models, and the ability to extrapolate are still many years away. Yeah.
And that's one of the things you talk about is this system one versus system two thinking. So AI excels at this system one, fast thinking and wide range of tasks.
Yes.
While the next frontier is system two, so the slow thinking and the deep reasoning.
Yes.
Where do you see the biggest opportunity in development for these two types of systems?
Yeah, no, great question. I mean, system one has already been mastered at the superhuman level by AI, and it's already being used in development. So when we see like predictive analytics and gathering of insights, classification, sentiment analysis, all of this stuff is benefiting from the pattern matching system one abilities, and then when we have the beginning of some generative applications as well in development, like summarization and some use cases in communication, this is all at the end of the day system one. Now, system two and slow thinking has already begun in AI, with the first thinking models that sort of like step by step they try to reason about things. But the problem is that these AI thinking models, they are not built on top of a robust causal understanding of the world. They don't have robust causal world models. Their world models are based on statistical correlations, so they are very brittle. And this is a problem. Why? Because this is like our intuition. You see, human intuition, our gut feeling is very powerful, but we know that sometimes it makes mistakes. And when your intuition gives you the wrong signal, it gives it with a lot of confidence though, and that's why sometimes we make mistakes. So what happens is that, let's say that the artificial intuition, because it's not built on a robust causal grounding, many times it gives you these signals with a lot of confidence as well, like human intuition, but in a way more dangerous way than human intuition, because they are not built on robust causal grounding. So the benefit for development would be that when you want to go beyond pattern recognition, when you want to actually put these AI systems in charge of decision making that requires, deep reasoning and deep understanding about these complex scenarios, you cannot do that until this system 2, slow thinking in the AI systems, is built on a robust causal grounding, which is still going to take a few years away. But once that happens, then you will be able to make these AI systems within the development context more autonomous. You'll be able to really give them more freedom to take critical decisions, which is impossible today.
And so flipping this around a little bit from how the development sector can use AI to more of how the AI sector can build on the humanitarian sector's deep knowledge of trying to solve some of the biggest challenges humanity faces. So, human well-being and progress.
Yes.
How do you see the tech sector, in a way, learning from the development sector in this next phase AI AGI development?
Yeah, this is a huge question and very important, because we are in the middle of this hype cycle of AI and fundraising, in which all of these big labs, because in the moment that these big labs have started to work on system 2 slow thinking, this is expensive. This is very expensive, because inference in slow thinking is takes a lot of cycles. And when we start to think also about video models in creative applications, this is all very expensive. So they have to do more fundraising. And when they have to do more fundraising, we are entering the danger that they don't put humans first.
Right.
And they put more like, profit first, obviously. Yeah? So how can they learn from the humanitarian and development field? Well, obviously, by trying to find a balance, because there is the danger that we start to see sort of a rebound effect. In fact, since the launch of the latest models, from GPT-5 to similar models, people have started to realize that no, AGI is not 4 months away, and that the improvements in the latest models are incremental, they are not big leaps. So they are starting to get a more realistic view of the situation. And some people also, recently, one of the big companies has also proposed the launch of a social network that is going to be all full of sort of like AI media. And some people are beginning to worry about this because they feel like the human side of things is being left behind. So I think that the tech sector has to try not to make the same errors that have already been made earlier by the first social networks like Facebook and the like. Which just focused on, engagement for the sake of engagement, and they left the humans behind, So the tech sector should learn about this, but it's going to be a difficult battle, because again, there is a lot of pressure on the big labs to do the fundraising and to get the profit, because it's very expensive now to get into this system 2 context.
And that brings me to a question on ethics and bias and empathy, which is one of the big themes today, and also this shows up in your discourse around AI.
Yes.
What are some practical pieces of advice that you have, for example, to agencies like the World Food Programme or UNICEF that are building their ELMs or LLMs?
Yes.
How do we do no harm when adopting AI systems and not leaving the human behind, as you say?
This is a huge question, and for example, it speaks about the great work that, for example, Developermetrics is doing in trying to adapt, to go beyond the pre-trained LLM systems and adapt LLM systems and similar entities to specific contexts and environments and projects, because this is the secret really of how to approach a solution for this. All the pre-trained systems that have been created by the big labs have been pre-trained on data like Reddit, for example, which is not only full of a lot of slop, but it's full of a lot of incorrect data. So the most important thing is to realize that we're still in the era of data. In my talk, I spoke that the next era is the era of experience, where the AI agents are going to gradually build elegant, modular, hierarchical robust abstractions and models of the world, but we are not yet there. We're in the era of data, so data is the gold today, and the emphasis has to be put both by companies like Develometrics and also, as Nassim mentioned as well, in customizing and personalizing specific entities, LLMs, and related systems to control the sort of latent abstractions and world models that they have inside. And on top of that, that Nassim also mentioned, and that I also mentioned, is that you have to go beyond neural networks to think more of neurosymbolic approaches, like Nassim also mentioned, Bayesian networks, symbolic modules as well, because if you use, for example, symbolic modules like AlphaFold used in DeepMind, or as Nassim mentioned that some of their projects are using, you can sort of like take the approximations of deep learning systems and sort of like filter them and constrain them and, let's say, polish their approximations to avoid some of the mistakes that they produce. And the same thing with Bayesian networks that can allow these systems to adapt to uncertainty and to give answers in a more probabilistic way that allow you to understand how much confidence these systems have in their answers, you know.
So that's already sort of that system too, like taking what they...
It's basically a way to compensate for the fact that we are still far from a robust system too. So because we're still far, let's compensate the lack of the robust system too with some symbolic modules that sort of filter and adapt the answers, and some Bayesian probabilistic systems that give us a measure of the amount of confidence that these systems have in their responses. So it's a way to sort of, so it's a neurosymbolic approach that sort of says, okay, let's benefit from the neural part, but let's sort of control it a little bit with symbolic modules because we are not yet in a robust causal system too. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Now, last closing question I've been asking all our interviewees is, if you could correct one misconception about AI in development, what would that be?
Oh, that's a very interesting question. Well, I think, I mean, again, I'm not an expert in the development field, right? But, you know, I would say that probably a lot of people in development think that AI is very close to replace a lot of people, you know? And that's not the case, you know. I mean, there are a lot of people today worried about AI taking over the job markets and also about existential dangers of AI. But the fact is that, like we saw in my talk and in this paper released last week, we are probably at 60% on the way to AGI. We're still far from this existential. I mean, it's good to talk about them. It's important to already work on alignment and all of this, but we're still far from that, and we're still far, and I think people are realizing about this, about AI replacing like whole sectors in the job market. I mean, it is true that a lot of companies are beginning to maybe downsize the size of some teams and have less humans collaborating. But we have seen so many examples recently, right, about the companies that have replaced humans with AI and they had to turn backwards and bring back the humans, right? So I think this one, for sure, is one of the misconceptions that people think that AI is going to take over a lot of the humans, and this is definitely not the case.
Great. Well, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
And,
thank you so much.
I look forward to hearing from you for the rest of the day.
Great.